Hey y'all, how y'all doing? This is Lyne't with the Lyne't Gray Show here on KUAW, Knowledge, Understanding, and Wisdom, Kansas City's first global, now internet radio station. You are most likely listening. Today is Tuesday. I want to say May 25th. So I want to wish a happy birthday tomorrow to my soon-to-be 23-year-old. 23, y'all. Good night. My POTUS, Jock Arthur. I love you, son. I love you. I love you. I love you. Happy birthday. I know you're going to kick it. You a Gemini. They always kick it. But I want to thank everybody for joining the Lyne't Gray Show today on Tuesday, May 25th, 2021. And we were supposed to be rounding off our Mental Health Awareness Month, but I decided to stretch out mental health awareness only because we will address this at least 5 to 10 minutes per show. And the only reason being is because we need to start getting people help. That's all. That's it. A lot of folks need help. And you're most likely listening to the Lyne't Gray Show here on Facebook Live at KUAW-radio. You can also listen to us by typing in the letters KUAW on YouTube. Y'all start going over to the YouTube channel. If this channel mess up, just go on over to YouTube and watch it. It's still streaming. You can watch us on KUAW, type in the letters KUAW on YouTube. I don't know if it's KUAW radio or KUAW on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and the Patreon app. Periscope, not Patreon. And for our people who really, you might be busy doing something, download the TuneIn app and you can listen on TuneIn. You don't have to watch to see what's going on. All you're doing is looking at us talk, looking at our beautiful faces while we're talking. That's it. So we have an ongoing station fundraiser, and it keeps the Lyne't Gray Show and much of our quality programming coming to you live each and every week. So I would ask that you please consider 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 500, 5,000, $5 million donation through PayPal. Let's not put a limit on it. I used to have a pastor that passed around this big old planter bucket. He was like, you pass out a little plate, you get a little money. You ask for big money, you get big money. Pass out a big bucket, you get big money. He was right. So let's not limit it to $5 or 10. If you got money, hey, let me tell y'all this. Everybody who has those 1099s, I'm about to do a timeout on my introduction. Everyone who has a 1099, you need to find a place, a 501c3 to give money to so that you do not owe the government. I have several people who filed their taxes, and when they filed their taxes, the lowest number I've heard anyone owing the government is $2,000. That's the lowest number. Everybody else is up in the 5, the 10. One man owes the government $21,000. Imagine how much he could have ate off that ate up his fees, even if he just continually donated to Black Family Technology Awareness Association, BFTAA. What's it? I always say it wrong. The George, what is it? William Wells Group.
A-Steam Village.
A-Steam Village. I always want to say E-Steam Village. So that's why I never say it, because I don't want to say it wrong. It's A-Steam Village. And then KUAW. Y'all, these are 501c3 deductible donations. So come on in pretty and orally and all y'all come on in. I'm just doing an introduction. But these are 501c3 deductible, or might not even be 501c3, but they're 501 organizations. And you can make donations and they are tax deductible. Don't look up come time to file taxes and then calling Lyne't like, oh, Lyne't, what do I do? Well, you pay it. I had to pay it. Hey, you pay it. That's all you can do is when you haven't been making those donations and you owe that money, only thing you can do is pay it. So if you have any questions or you want to donate and you want to get your tax deductible donation form, email the station at KUAW985@gmail.com. I'm not going to give the telephone number because, people are there at specific times now. We're remote shows. So, but please feel free to send your in-kind donations, and all gifts of any amount are greatly appreciated, and they contribute to the quality of programming that you get here on KUAW. So now, we've been running a little bit late. We have special guests, Life 360 coming up. We are waiting for everybody to come into the Zoom live feed. But until then, we have Dos Minutos with Jorge. And so my son, Jorge Fuller for the People. Tell us what you got for us, Jorge.
Let's start off with that the state has passed Senate Bill 53, and most people don't know what that means, but I suggest you look it up. That was the bill that I made mention of, that you can run over protesters without having to be liable if they are blocking traffic to certain areas. That also had within it reducing the restriction for Kansas City Police Department to be living in the city limits of Kansas City. So that tells you that that shouldn't have passed from that point forward. However, but because it did, it's actually on the docket. It went from the Senate now to the House, and it's still waiting to be signed by the governor. So I suggest that if you really dislike it, you actually speak on it. And when we come to a local level, last week an ordinance passed with it was a challenging ordinance, but the mayor as well as several other council people made this ordinance pass, where we are taking more control of the finances for the police department. The city is regaining its control for the finances. Don't let them tell you the narrative that it is defunding police. It is actually controlling the finances. The finances will be steady until 2022. So that means that you have a whole year plus of finances going the way it is. So looking at both of those, a state and local level, you have to make sure that you are adjusting for that. Lastly, for those 501c3s, if you plan events that are educational, cultural, provide tourism, and encourage people to come and visit your space, you need to tap into the neighborhood funding and development and tourism fund, right? Neighborhood Development Tourism Fund, that is the NDTF, saying it wrong, NDFT, Neighborhood Development Funding Tour. I was right. NDTF, Neighborhood Development Tourist Fund. It is associate. It is actually for you to tap in to help with some of those costs and expenses, because you are engaging your city and showcasing different events. I learned this while speaking up at City Hall for the Juneteenth becoming a citywide holiday and celebrated by the city of Kansas City, which it should be. It's been way too long, and I think that is relevant into today's conversation. When we speak with Life 360, we discuss certain things that has been going on for way too long, and changes have to occur. And I was privileged to speak on that just a couple of weeks ago. I don't do things just so that you can see videos, but there's a video of it. It was streamed, and if you would like to look for it, just look on the KC's public website, and it's on there. I tell you this in saying that please be aware of what's happening. Don't just say social media told you this. Don't just say Jorge Fuller for the People told you this, because I want to tell you to look at it from multiple angles and see for yourself how it stands and impacts you. This has been Dos Minutos with Jorge Fuller. You can follow me at Jorge Fuller for the People on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I'm not so active on Twitter, but if you do start mentioning and commenting, I will start becoming more active. I just go where the people are. Thank you again. Hashtag Fuller for the People.
Okay, so what you're gonna have to do is go where the people ain't too. Hey, people get to know you because you went in areas where they were not at. So you go ahead and do that Twitter and go where the people are not as well. So Mr. Walker, do we have in our Life 360 guests? Okay, well, we about to wing it. Yeah, they do have the right link. They were on once before, so they know it's the same link. Um, okay. Um, yeah, that's what I'm getting ready to do right now. So what we're gonna talk about today is I found out some amazing stuff. If they're not coming in, y'all, if put a send a comment in the comment section if y'all watching Orly and Pretty. Put a comment in the comment section, and then Mr. Walker can send y'all the link again. because I just forwarded him the email with the PowerPoint. So he knows everybody's email is on there. He can send the email with the link again. While we wait on them, y'all, I am like so stoked. And I was talking to my fiance. Yes, I'm getting married. So everybody get your tickets together. Again, I'm always good. I told you I'm the Black Elizabeth Taylor. So this one said this is the last stop. We about to see June 8th, 2022. We gonna see. Well, of course he gonna act right for the marriage. Well, no, he might. It's that. I love you anyway, baby. So I was so stoked earlier today because I was talking to him about, I'm uber geek. A lot of people don't know that. And so I love all things scientific and like anything that has to do with science and philosophy and math and things like that. And I've been studying the brain. And in studying the brain, I found out something truly amazing. So we all know how, our parents used to say, well, if you keep hanging out with such and such, you're going to be like them. Or you hear the saying, you are who you hang out with. Look at your 5 closest people and you'll be that in 5 years. So studying the brain, I found out that that is true. And it is scientifically true that who you hang out with, who you are connected with, who your energy is connected with, it has been proven scientific now. They've watched people literally, you know how you could be with a friend or something and you think something and your friend say it, or you think, oh man, I want a pop, and your friend get up and go get a pop and be like, here, you want a pop? And you're like, wait a minute, how'd you know that? Because it's real. And they are proving it with neuroscience. They sat a man in a lab, sat another man halfway across the world or country or whatever in another lab. They told the one man to think of a button to press to stop this like nuclear bomb on this video game. The man who thought of the button to press on the video game, he thought of the button, and the man halfway around the world pressed the button, y'all. He pressed the button, and he didn't even know that he was in no way connected with the other man. So, that right there, part of our mental health awareness is what I tell people is getting away from situations that trigger your mental health. And a lot of people will say, and I don't want to sound ungrateful or anything like that, but some family members, y'all, you have to get away from because they're comfortable in their mental health issues and their toxic situations. They're comfortable there. And some of us, I know I didn't like being the way I was. And the way I was a norm for the people in my family. It was a norm. And my grandmother's brother, she's my grandmother's brother, my mom's mom. Her brother I used to always meet him at McDonald's to talk to him. And he would always talk about my grandfather, which was my mom's dad. He would say, y'all Grays are crazy. The Grays are crazy. And I was like, why did you say that? He said, no, I'm not saying it to be funny. I'm saying it because it's true. And he started telling me some of the things that are associated with that name and our blood coming out of Chicago, coming out of, by way of Samoa. They were Samoans who landed right out of Chicago. And I was like, whoa. And so years ago, I had made up my mind. I said, I realized that something wasn't normal about the way I thought. And I wanted I wanted to be normal. That's all I said. So I began to take measures to start not be normal, everybody else is normal, but to be, to make sure my mind and my thoughts and my heart were in the right space and in the right place. And some days you will have off days. Some days we will be off, y'all. But it's all about understanding. But the first thing I did when I said I wanted to be normal, I cut off everything that was the way I was. And what I mean by cut it off, I had to distance myself from it. I still loved each and every one of them. But for my personal mental health, I had to distance myself from the behaviors and from the people who felt there was nothing wrong with them. And so that's what I would like for people to understand about Mental Health Awareness Month. And we focused on Black men, and I'm hoping that we can get Life 360 in. But if we can't, we'll just carry over with this. And if Ches is ready to go, we can bring him in. You could text him and say, hey, come on in if he's ready to go, if we can't get Life 360 in. But the thing about it is, the reason why I focus on Black men is because the Black men's examples of mental health. I'm privy to have several men that I call brother, that they are truly, I'm not one of them women that's call them brother and then got eyes for them. That ain't me. I call them brother because I love them and they are my brother. I see them as my brother. And to listen to adult men say that some of the nonsense that is still being taught and still being spread to this day as adults, the adults are not, they not just spread it amongst each other in their 30s and 40s, but they're teaching it to the young men. And so that type of situation creates in men, you know, you're hearing it from a man, men who you look up to, you know, and George, you can come in whenever you feel like it, but you're hearing this from men that you look up to. Don't you love no woman, and, you know, women, Black women this and Black women that, or, you know, you don't, the one that I can't stand, which they've programmed so many of our Black men. Why are you working for the white man? Because I need a job to pay my bills. I want a nice car like you. I want a pension when I get old. You get what I'm saying? I don't want to be, you know, begging the government for money. I want to take trips. But they teach the young Black men, you don't want to work for the white man. You want to open a business. Well, I will say this publicly, and anybody can get mad. The reason why many Black businesses are horrible at what they do, because they first didn't work for a white man. Why reinvent the wheel? Go work somewhere where the white people are doing exactly what you want to do for your business. Learn it from top to bottom. And while you're transitioning out, because you've already started your business, you know how to train your employees. So, but the mental health situation amongst Black men I remember when we were younger, they used to always speak, oh, Black men are endangered species. Black men are endangered species. Well, they're no longer an endangered species because I helped repopulate the planet with my 5 sons. So I think I did my part. But I feel like the mental health, the healthy minded Black man is coming out of being an endangered species. George, you go ahead and you can chime in.
I was going to say it takes us actually challenging the status quo and statements of what masculinity is and how it is defined. An example of, for example, when we start talking about the LGBTQ initiative and the fact that we start questioning and being upset. But I listened to the Red Table Talk a couple of weeks back, and they were talking about polyandry and polyamorous relationships, right?
Mhm.
And just like when they said it, something clicked for me. They said this one line, and that way I don't get kicked off and we don't have our show phrase. But the one line was, a lot of people are in polyandrous relationships, but they just not open and communicating about it. And so you think about toxic masculinity and what mental health issues were taught to the Black male is that we have to have multiple, right? You are, when you are a player, you the best thing ever since sliced bread. But in reality, you are doing things in a backwards way, because if you paid attention to the movements and paid attention to the understandings that are now being drafted out and explained and actually giving scientific reasoning behind it, you will start to understand that it is not a condition of whether you're wrong or right. It is the fact that this is what you're experiencing. So when you say, oh, I don't support LGBTQI or whatever else you want to call it, you don't support it, but you got multiple relationships happening at the same time. That's a part of that community, and now you're in a duality and conflict within self, and you're not actually dealing with that conflict. So now you have this whole pent up situation where you're not actually adjusting and making a way to actually acknowledge and deal with your issues. So you start turning into drugs, you start turning into alcohol, you start turning into sex even further.
Yep, sex addictions. And I'm gonna piggybacking off what you said. And everybody knows I had my own salon for a while, and I had a man. I call him a woman but he said he's a man. He was like, I'm not post op, so I'm still a man. But he looked just like a woman. He was trans, and I mean, you couldn't tell the difference. You would pick me as the man over him. And he sat in my chair, and he's like, "Look here, baby." Hey, baby. He's from New Orleans. He said, I've been gay my whole life. He said, one thing I know about men who play the field, they are not confident in their home heterosexuality. And I said, huh? He said, men who stick with one woman and they don't lie to her, they don't cheat to her, they don't need homeboys, they don't need to be around 50 men all the time. They love being at home and seeing their wife walk around. He said, those are your straight men. He said, but those men who always got to be gone with their boys and gone get a beer and gone. He said, why do they need all that masculine energy? Because they are questioning their heterosexuality. And I never thought, I was like, ah. He said, listen, you stick with the women. I know about the men. And I began to see what he meant with this new generation, because LGBT is more open, and you would see kids torture other kids in school who were gay. And then the kids get out of school and now they're in their 20s and they're gay. And you're like, wait a minute, you was bullying that kid for being gay, but now you're gay. So that is something, like you said, mental health awareness. And even if he's not questioning his sexuality, the mental health issue of playing the field is the fact that you need to hug your mama or whoever hurt you, the woman in your life that was responsible for raising you. You need to hug that woman till it don't hurt no more. Because what you're doing is you're taking the time to hurt all these other women because that woman didn't give you what you needed. I look at my sons and I look at, all my bonus and my godsons, and y'all are solid in who y'all are as men because y'all have no issues with your mother. You get what I'm saying? Y'all have that part is covered. So, hey, y'all solid in who y'all are. Y'all easy to tell the truth to a woman, whether she wants to hear it or not. And then she can try to force y'all into a relationship. But that's on her. That's on her.
You just said something, because we start talking about, and we forget that the mental health is the fact that people will say a lie and continue to weave more lies and more lies and more lies until they've lost their own reality. And
Yeah.
when we say tell the truth, I'm like, they don't understand the raw truth. There's a reason
Right.
why you feel like, oh, I can't say the truth to someone, because you don't trust them and you don't trust yourself. So when you are saying, how do we deal with mental health? One, if you know that monogamy is not your thing, you need to be honest with yourself and deal with the fact that monogamy is not your thing. And that's okay. It's nothing wrong with you, unless you have an addiction into which that addiction controls every aspect of your life. That's when you go and find resources and supports and help. Uh, we were raised in this monotheism and mono type of way. We're not always going to be monogamous in that fashion. You're not always going to be monogamous in the way you think. You have to have multiple perspectives in order to formulate a solid thought, because multiple people put things inside of you, whether it be physical, whether it be energy, whether it be mental, whether it be verbal conversations. They put stuff with you. And when I say physical, I'm not talking about sexually. I'm talking about like they actually, we started talking about health, and we started talking about what they inject in us, what pills that you get put in. I'm talking about that as well. So what you're ingesting, what you're consuming, what you're putting in, you put back out. So when we go back and say, are we dealing with our mental health? Our mental health for Black men purely is also associated with our physical health. When we don't feel a certain way, we don't look a certain way, we act a certain way, and those things come out throughout the ways that we actually portray it. When I see alcoholism, I literally look and I'm looking in the mirror. And I'm not looking in the mirror for my reflection, but for a reflection of someone that resembles me that I watched go through this on a regular occasion as a child, who is someone that I look up to still, even though I learned from their mistakes. Because I told myself I wouldn't do XYZ. So alcohol is not my stress relief. It is not where I turn to when I go to it. And I'm saying that because the simple fact is they use this as their crutch to escape reality and not deal with the issues that they have. They had depression, they had anxiety, they had mental health disorders that weren't dealt with. And we turn to this because everyone preached normalcy. Ain't nothing normal about an individual. And the only reason why we consider normalcy as the way it is, that's white supremacist culture. They wanted
Right.
everything to be normal. They wanted this is the standard of way of life. And if you don't do it, it is something wrong with you. And that's absolutely false. So when we say mental health, we got to deal with that. We got to actually be courageous and step out.
Here's the thing. I'm glad you said courageous though, because I always tell people trying to be what everyone wants you to be will drive you crazy. It literally will drive you crazy. The most sane thing you can do in this world is be you. But I always say be you in a healthy manner. Don't be you to the point that, like, we will use my little sister who passed away in 2018. The last time we sat there and talked, we sat at dinner and we talked for hours. I wound up having to tip the waitress, probably 3 or 4 hours worth of wages because we just sat at her table. And she was telling me that her start into addiction was wondering, number one, because her mom was an addict, and it was wondering what was so strong about crack cocaine that could make a woman abandon her children. And so she didn't have children, so she felt like, I'm safe. I can do crack because I'm safe. I don't have no kids. I don't have no husband. I can do what I want to do. And so as we sat there and we talked, and I was like, but you had people who loved you. She said, yeah. So then once she kicked the crack habit, the crack habit. And then, once you kick the habit, you gain weight. And so society was telling her she was too big. And some of us, no matter how much we walk, no matter how much we exercise, no matter, we are just going to be our massive selves. Like I tell people, you can skin me down to skin and bones, and I will never be a petite woman, ever. And it just won't happen. But because of society's pressures and her not willing to stand up against the pressures of society, she wound up smoking wet PCP to keep the weight off. So therefore, she went from one extreme of just wanting to see what was wrong with her mother, and she kicked that crack habit. That was done once she figured out what it was. But then she jumped into PCP for weight loss. Now I'm gonna tell y'all, I had a friend who committed suicide in 2018, right before my little sister passed away, literally the same week. This one was going through a divorce. And this is where mental health comes in, y'all. She was married to this man. They were a very wealthy family, 7 figures, not 6. They had an image to uphold. Drugs played a part in keeping her small. She came out and told me the day that she actually committed suicide that I found out when they called me to ask what we talked about for so long. And I never had a hint that that's what she was going to do. But drugs and, street drugs that you would never think that certain people are doing. But that's mental health issues, y'all. Like George said something powerful. He said, the European standard is what tells us who we are supposed to be. I'm not supposed to be a Black woman with a voice. If I have a voice, I'm aggressive, I'm loud, I'm angry. But if you talk to people who know me, they'll be like, oh, that's my girl. She's so sweet. Hey, how you doing? I pull into the company that I work for, and I pull into the hub with my trailer, and they answer the phone, they say hello, and I'm like, hey, how you doing? They're like, hey, my day is bright now that you're here. You get what I'm saying? But society tells me to back my voice down, to get small, to not be this ray of light, because that is the European standard, is to be quiet, to be petite as a woman, to get soft. Until we learn to stop looking at others. I caught flack for being a natural hairstylist. There is literally a spirituality guru who I have it in writing, who she told me she was going to bring me on tour with her. She literally said, but you cannot wear your natural hair. We're not going to do that. That's not presentable on stage. But now her hair looks just like mine. Not just like, not same texture, but same style. And that's how she teaches, is in her natural hair. But she had to get away from all of that to become herself. And I feel like as Black people, and I will keep saying this, I adore my daughter. She went to the Ivy League and kicked butt with her little ratchet demic self. She stayed ratchet, and then did her speech with her butterfly lashes, her long weave, her nails, her beat face as a Black woman. You get what I'm saying? Walked up there doing her shimmy with her little tongue out. But she's happy to be her. And so when we find, like I was telling my fiance, I don't want you to be who you think you want, I want. Because I was like, why don't you ever put lines in your hair? He was like, I didn't think you liked that. I don't care if I don't like it. Do it anyway. You get what I'm saying? I'm going to like it. There are people change their hair all the time. As long as it's not something that's hurting me. You putting lines in your hair ain't hurting me. I'm a hairdresser. I like it anyway. I tell them, if you dye your hair blonde, I'll be like, okay, well, you need to put a little bit of purple on it to bring that blonde out some more. But we have to let go of the European standard. Now that we're talking about polygamy, polyandry, things like that. One thing, first off, he and I did bring up, we watched the Red Table Talk, and I brought it up to him, and he was like, oh no, I'm too jealous of a man. And I thought I might want to do, I was like, well, it's a good idea. And then I was like, nah, because the first time I look up and he laid up under some woman, I'll be ready to burn the house down with them in it. So no, I'm too jealous of a woman for that. But the one thing that was pointed out was polygamy was normal. If you look in the Bible, polygamy is normal. If you look at other religions, polygamy is normal. They just started pushing monogamy because the women didn't want the poor men. The women, the rich, wealthy men had all the wives and all the concubines, side chicks as they call them now. But they had all of them because why? They were wealthy. And so they had to start pushing the narrative of monogamy, one man to one wife, because they were like, hey, yeah, spread them out. Why are these women marrying these men? And so you have to understand that. Another thing is, a lot of the standards that are being looked at for today's for years came from the Catholic Church as well. And so the Catholic Church looks down on, they used to look down on women for sexual pleasure. It used to be only men and boys. So the idea of you have to be married before sex, that was because they wanted the children born in a wedded thing, but the men were not monogamous with their wives because they were sleeping with little boys and other men. So I think education plays a role in mental health as well. When you start to understand where a lot of these ideas come from, and you can say, okay, like he and I both said, we not built for it. We not built for the polygamy thing. We're not. But I know people who are, and they have healthy and happy relationships for years. I mean, polygamy, y'all, polyandry, polygamy, all of that, that's nothing new. It's nothing new. I remember meeting a Muslim when I was younger, and it was a Muslim man. And he was married to my friend when she graduated high school, and he had 5 wives, and he owned, I'm not going to call off the restaurants, but he owned several restaurants in Kansas City. But he had 5 wives. So it's all about us living in our truth. Like you said, with any category, you have to know that's what you want to do. There are women right now who are having mental and nervous breakdowns because they agreed to a polygamous relationship with their husband, or they agreed to be swingers just to keep their marriage, and they really didn't want to do that. And so now they're running from that marriage. The man don't understand why. She don't want to be bothered with him. She sees him as a monster, but she agreed to some stuff that she should have been like, nah, I ain't about that life unless you want to get shot. She literally could have just came to him like that. And I think most men would be like, oh, we cool. You ain't got to worry about it. But living in your truth, y'all, it's time to stop. And I always tell people, I know some people who have made their lives look like the stuff dreams are made of on social media. I know people.
And
Go
I'll say
ahead.
you just mentioned something that social media, what we deem to show the rest of the world as ourself. Paul Lawrence Dunbar said, "We wear the mask that grins and hides." Right? You seriously don't understand that is just nothing more than a mask and a facade of what you have. And the benefit is, some people, they're genuinely this way, regardless if it's in person, virtually, whatever the case may be. The benefit I am is that I'm genuinely who I am as I am. And if I'm saying, hey, polyandry is an option for some people, I can't say it's not an option for me because I've never experienced it. But what I will say is that the basis of it is understanding where and what the source of thought was and where the source of the expectation is coming from, because we have deemed people unfit based off an expectation that they don't need to live by. They don't need that. Expectation's not for them. And so we go into it. The other portion of live your truth is also find your joy. Remember back when you were in kindergarten and you was able to smile and say, that's my friend, and nothing else, no challenges to it, with no effort, no work. It was just your friend. You have to live in that. That's the way I find my joy. So
Yeah.
yes, I have multiple groups, and I say I have multiple circles of friends. I can't invite everybody all at once because COVID, so we can't do it. But if I could, I would. I would say you have an
I can't
invite.
invite mine at once because somebody go get something stolen out their purse. I ain't
Like,
even
well,
gonna lie.
and I
In some
say
low
this, the
places,
one
and
thing
I
I
got
have
the
to
and I
go
got
with,
the
no
kleptos
seal.
and millionaires. It ain't even the low places people that's gonna be stealing them millionaire kleptos. I know.
Hey, listen, I tell them one thing: don't steal. That's the only thing I dislike. Don't steal.
But you know
Whatever
what?
the case.
I will tell them when I'm around them. I'm like, hey, I can't stand a thief, but I'm gonna watch every day. I'm gonna count my soap when you leave. But like you said, you are able to be friends with anybody. One thing I noticed, and I want us, this will be healing to Black people. Please listen to George when he said, when you're a kindergartner, anybody can be your friend. Because as long as they're not asking you to get in on what I tell people all the time, people used to be like, oh, that's your friend. Never forget I had a friend and everybody was like, oh, she's a Santa Claus. Ho, ho, ho. And I was like, I don't care what she is. She can sleep with all of North and South Kansas City, all of Kansas, Des Moines, all of that. You don't disrespect her in my face. Because, like you said, we need to be able to be, and first off, quit worrying about what other people do in their bedroom. Come on, y'all. Everybody why are you worried about what other people do in their bedroom? The only time you should be worried about it is if they trying to bring you into it. If they're not, and people are like, oh, they're trying to turn our kids gay. I don't know where this whole scenario came from, that they're trying to effeminate the boys and turn the children gay. The boys who are, and I'm about to blow some people's mind. Look up the science of the sibling order. There is a science to the order of siblings. It is naturally known, and it was even written about in the Bible. It is naturally known that the second son is always the more effeminate son. He might not be gay, but he's the more, that's not saying he's the gay son. That's saying he's the son that likes to look good, smell good, keep them hands done, keep them feet done. He's the ladies' man. When you look at a picture of the second son, you're like, oh, he bad. He's sharp. I can always walk up to a man and say, you're the second son, aren't you? And they'll say, how you know? I say, you good looking. You get what I'm saying? And so that the oldest son is always the well, in my case, well, yeah, my son answered the phone was like Black Jesus. He got the whole dreads with beard and stuff. But I was about to say, in my case, the oldest son is not the rough around the edges, but he is. He just was keeping up that facade because he was married, and then he went from having a mama who made him look good to being with a wife who always wanted him to look dapper, and so now he just walking around looking like Black Jesus for real. He answered the phone. I told him, I said, your album need to be called Black Jesus. But we have to look up the science. I tell people, when all else fails, look at science. Science does change somewhat of theories, but it does not change dramatically. And there is a science of sibling order. And so there is a science that says, oftentimes your second born child, your second born son is the more dapper son. But oftentimes your second born child is the more violent child. That's a child that will wind up in cuffs. Look at Beyonce and Solange. Look at Bunny and Lyne't.
You say, and some people start thinking like, is this, we also have to understand that there's a multitude in our family dynamics, because some people were born and you were the second for one group while you're the first for another.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So
I literally, my first 4 children, Minnie, get out. She always trying to, Minnie don't know how to act, y'all. Minnie ain't like Lilo. She can't be on camera. But my first 4 children are the first children of their dads. But they're my first, second, third, fourth. So you're absolutely right about that. You have to look at the dynamic. But what I'm saying is we need to stay out of other people's lives. Life is so much simpler when you mind your own business. I think, and I will dare to say this. And I was saying this, and it came out on the phone. I was driving up the street. Well, not up the street, driving up to Nebraska. And I was talking to a friend on the phone. And I said, some of the messiest people are the most judgmental people. I said, they got all kind of issues going on in their life. They judging other people, and they always keeping mess going. And it seemed like they got mental health issues. And we were just talking about that. And he said, you're right. And so in recognizing that might be something that you gauge yourself with. Are you always starting some mess? Is it always some kind of confusion? Is it everybody running from you because you not fun to, not even just fun, but you're a stress to be around, you're a strain to be around? Start looking at yourself, put the mirror up and say, okay, what is it about me that I need to change? When you start becoming truthful with yourself, you will begin to heal your mind. That is the basics. It's accountability. What they say, the first step to healing addiction is admitting you have a problem.
Yep. I say you have to acknowledge what your issue is. And the reason why I mentioned polyandry in the Red Table Talk, because they said that in order for you to move forward in this, you have to deal with your insecurities. And a lot of times when we look at mental health, there's a lot of insecurities that we see, but we're doing a comparison of ourselves to a societal norm that really don't have anything to do with what we're doing. I promise you, if you're saying, hey, I want to be the American dream, I'm supposed to have a white picket fence, 2-car garage. I got a 2-car garage and a fence, and now I'm looking at it like this. If this is the American dream, I'm still going to work every day.
Right,
I'm still grass all the time. Maybe I'm living a significant portion of it, but this ain't the dream that I wanted. This is not what I deem as my freedom and liberation and my emancipation for certain things. So when we start to say, what is it that you want? When do you find your joy? When do you find your truth? But also look at it, how do you define yourself? Because at the end of the day, when you look in the mirror, you have to be proud of what you see returning back. And if you're not proud of it, you work on it. So if you're physically not feeling like you're attractive, then go buy some weights, Go buy some walking opportunities. Go get a dog and walk the dog. Just do something to where you start to see yourself transform into what you
Yeah,
want to see. Because
absolutely.
your mind is strong enough, and it's been proven not only in religious statements, but scientifically, is to make things that you conceptualize in existence. So if
Yep.
you actually pay attention to that, when you say I want it to be this, and you decide it from that point forth, that's what's going to happen.
And you said something powerful that I'm glad you brought up because we got a couple of minutes left on the show. But I watched the video and I just started crying tears because Snoop Dogg's daughter said, "Why was I born so ugly? Why am I so ugly?" And we as parents have to watch the narrative. We as people who are over children have to watch the narrative of what we show them that's beautiful. I look at it as Snoop is responsible for his daughter thinking she's ugly. Because when you look at Snoop's videos, what do you see? You don't see women that look like Snoop's daughter. You don't even see women that look like his wife in his video. When he did have, everybody knows her as Baby Boo, in his videos, it was her. It was not any representation of a love interest that was not her, did not look like her. And so she talked about, his daughter talked about her health problems. And then she talked about looking at herself and not seeing herself as beautiful. Why? Because her dad is one of the people that helped perpetuate the light skin, the fair skin, or the lighter skin with the loose curl hair, with the slim body and the European features. And I will say this as a mother of a dark-skinned daughter, that the most offensive thing that people would tell me is, "Oh, your daughter's beautiful because she got European features. Oh, she don't look like a monkey." So y'all know the cuss out came after that, because I don't play with when it comes to skin tone. You're not gonna call my people monkeys. And but we have to remember that other people's narrative of our life is their narrative. And what they think and what they desire ain't got nothing to do with you. I tell people this. I was in the hospital dying in June of 2019. In the hospital dying. My kids need to be taken care of. My bills need to be paid. I was worrying about going back to work. I could not afford to die, if y'all can understand what I'm saying. I could not afford to die. Too much needed to be taken care of. I couldn't leave my family in that position. But one thing I realized when I got out that hospital and I wound up with $300,000 of medical bills, I would cry. They call me day and night, call me. And finally, one day I was so mad because I was asking people who I knew had it and I had given to them. When I had it, they called me, they could have it. And I was asking people who I knew had it. I was like, if I could just get $20 from you, they fired me from my job because I couldn't move this, and the other, blah, 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 blah. Oh, I ain't got it. I ain't got it. So I started telling the bills when the bill was calling. This is what built up Lyne't's confidence, and I don't care about what nobody got to say. The bills were calling. They'd be like, you owe this. I'd be like, well, I want to pay it on with the opinions of others.
I say
And
if we
one lady
could.
told me, she said, "What'd you say to me?" I said, "I'm trying to pay this bill with the opinions of others because evidently that's what I've been living on my whole life, and that's got to have some type of value." And she said, "Ma'am, that is not an acceptable form of currency. So if you got cash, check, or or credit card, you let me know. But of the opinions of others." And right then and there is when I quit caring about what other people thought about me. I will tell people in a heartbeat, I got a fat gut. I tell every man I meet, you ain't get, you see this up here, this look cute. I got a trucker gut. I ain't got no problem with telling nobody because you're gonna take me as I am, and if you don't, I don't care because the opinions of others don't matter to me. But that helped you pull out of a dark place. You get what I'm saying? We too busy, and I'm seeing it spread around the world now. Everybody wants to be like Americans, Black Americans, basically. We got a chokehold on the world. We really do. Everybody wants to be like us, to the point that in other countries they sacrificing their own siblings for a fake Coach bag or to be able to have bone straight weave.
I want
Be you.
to I want to plug this in before I forget. Kansas City Plus Size Weekend. Kansas City Plus Size Weekend. Kansas City Plus Size Weekend. And I say this because I know the president of that, and she has been a dynamic. And when I say she fine, fine. And my wife knows this, and I said it to her, so she knows it. But everyone that I've seen, and I told my wife, you need to be in this show too. Everyone
Yes,
is beautiful beyond measure, and it is acceptable that they let their light shine. And everyone that is going to be participating, if you're going to go witness and watch, whatever the case may be, just know you are fighting against standards of beauty that most people deem inadequate, but also they fetish over and they wanted it in the first place. So
woo,
now you can
yes,
love yourself, mentally know this, but then I would tell you and challenge you to go and find someone and encourage and uplift them, elevate them. Because I spent the last 2 days, actually last 4 days, not including Saturday and Sunday, telling my Black female core members that they are beautiful, that their voices are powerful, and that they do not have to turn down their assertiveness because someone else deems it to be an aggressive nature. And the only reason why I get to say that as a Black male is also because I know exactly how we push them and deflate them because we don't want to, we are intimidated by them. And when I say we, because sometimes I gotta look at myself too. We look at it as a challenge to our masculinity and our authority
mm,
and our power. And in reality, if you look at your power, you have the authority to elevate and uplift. The man is supposed to lift society, it is supposed to encourage society. So when we speak of mental health and we speak of your role as a man, this is as someone that I really didn't have a lot of male figures raising me, but those that did made sure I lifted myself and lifted
yes,
my sister with me. And those that continue to be a part of my life are lifting the community. And I will say some people's names that are continuously pushing that narrative, and they continually build. That is what we are placed here to do. That is what we're valued for. And if you don't like it, you can choose your own identity, and we're going to either accept your identity and acknowledge you for what you want, or we're going to ignore you just like everyone else. But if you are
all right.
now